We could tell we're brothers. We like very similar options. It's funny about the cottage cheese that he mentioned too, because that the texture grosses me out too. The only time I've ever gagged by eating food was cottage cheese. Literally, it's funny. My roommate, he's like, "I've never seen you." Like back when I had a roommate, he's like, "I've never seen you gag eating a food." I took one spoon and gagged, but yeah. Anyways.
With the first question, this is a big question, and that is I'm struggling to get protein in my diet. No matter what I do, I am well short of my goal. I can't even imagine getting up to 1 gram of protein per body weight like you guys recommend. What do you recommend for this?
So the first thing I would say is make sure you have a lean protein source in each meal. That's a given, because if you don't, you're kind of missing out, and then you have to play catch up later in the day, which is just harder to do, right? Another thing that I really think is a really huge tip that I wanted to share as well is just keep in mind, you only have so many calories to spend, but you want a lot of protein, right? And a lot of people look to certain options that might not be as lean, like a fattier cut of meat or nuts or something like this, which, yeah, maybe it has some protein in it, but it also has a lot of fat and a lot of calories. And if you only have so many calories, you really need to budget wisely and spend wisely, right? So see your calorie spend in the day as being like a budget, and note that I need a lot of protein. I only have so many calories, so I should spend on the lean items that give me really good bang for my buck. That's my main tip is, I guess two tips in one is, have a lean protein source in each and every meal, first of all. And then second of all, go for those really lean options, the options that maybe 70, 80, 90% of the total calories in that food come from protein, like basically any white meat, any white fish, Greek yogurt, egg whites, lots of seafood like shrimp, things like this, protein powders, and all these things can give you a ton of protein for fewer calories. So that's my thoughts there.
Killer tips there from Coach Jason. And as coaches, we get this a lot, and this is something we really work to help people improve with. And one thing I always like to say is getting more protein in your diet, you can't expect to do it overnight. Like if you've eaten a certain way and you've eaten a Western diet or maybe a different type of diet, and you're used to certain foods that are really carb and fat heavy, and you've just never got protein. And I think people are really blown away when they first start tracking their protein, because they'll be like, I didn't realize I was having 30 grams and I'm supposed to get up to 130 in a day. That's crazy. So one thing to keep in mind is you don't have to do that big jump right off the bat. It's something you should progressively work towards. And that's why when we'll have a new client, I'm not going to take someone who's eating 30 and force them to eat 130. It's going to absolutely just mess you up, and you're going to just scale from 0 to 100 for absolutely no reason. And you're not giving your body any opportunity to acclimate. It'll feel weird digestion wise. And I know sometimes people will say, I don't like protein because I find it hard to digest. But I find as you work your way up to it and you analyze your sources, it really goes a long way. And like Jason said, there's foods that make it way easier. And I really think identifying like what your type A proteins are and what your type B proteins are. And what I mean by that is a lot of people say, I get so much protein in my peanut butter. But when you log it, you look at it, you're like, there's hardly anything in here. You're looking at like 3 grams per tablespoon, right? Per 100 and whatever calories. Like it's just not as net. Whereas chicken is pure protein. Protein shake is pure protein. So you're getting a lot more volume from that protein. It's not to say peanut butter won't help you to your goals, but if you're thinking I'm having a smoothie with no protein in it, but my protein source is this peanut butter, that 3 grams isn't actually going to move the needle for you. So that's where you need to identify like what's my main source of protein. And I really try to make sure I have that in each meal. So as Jason said, in the morning for me, that's my Greek yogurt. That's where I'm getting bulk of my protein from. Of course, I'm getting some degree of protein from things like my hemp hearts, from my granola. It'll actually have some protein too, but it's the faintest amounts. Whereas you can have massive chicken breasts or 1.5 and have about 50 grams of protein right off the hop, or a big steak, whatever it may be. So I think when you make this distinction and you make sure you have a dense source of protein with each meal or each snack, really makes hitting that goal that much easier. And using Jason's tips there was really, really big.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll add on to this as well to say, I like to see it, how I mentioned earlier, the spend and the budget. And like Josh said, certain things are like type A, type B, peanut butter, things like this. They have some protein, but they have a lot of calories, and you're not getting that much protein for the calories that you spend. Something I like to think is, imagine if you had $100 to say buy all your clothing for an outfit that you needed to go to a wedding or something like this, right? You could spend at a thrift store and get really cheap stuff and get really great bang for your buck and get the whole outfit for that $100. Or you could get that same outfit at a designer clothing store and spend thousands and thousands of dollars for the same outfit, right? It's and if this makes sense, it's the amount which you spend which matters, right? You could hit that 130 gram protein with 100 or 1400 calories, or you could hit that 130 gram protein for 3000 calories. But the thing is, if you guys are looking to keep your body fat at bay, lose body fat, and also get a lot of protein, you need to go for those good options like the chicken breast that Josh mentioned, or egg whites, or the Greek yogurt, or whatever else.
That is so well said, and you can tell he's my brother because he too loves analogies. I love analogies so much. It just makes things a lot easier for me. But yeah, that point is so true. And that's where when you look for the lean proteins, you'll hear that word thrown around a lot, lean proteins, because even if someone's bulking, I'll recommend them to get more into beef and not even lean beef, right? Because it's going to be so caloric. You're going to get good protein, but you're also going to get a ton of fat, ton of calories. And if you're looking to cut, that's not really what you want to focus in. You might want to avoid that. Like you said, look more to those white proteins, if you will, like chicken breast, certain fish, like different options. And the best thing you can do is look at labels. You'll really learn what works for you, and everyone's so different. Like, I love Greek yogurt. You might hate it. Some people love cottage cheese. The thought of eating cottage cheese disgusts me. And some people say it's so good, don't knock it till you try it. Or I know some people will just eat tuna. And everyone's so different, but you just need to find protein sources you like, and you can find a lot of intelligent ones. So some cheeky, unique ones that I use like lactose-free cheeses as someone who is lactose intolerant. So those are actually really dense in protein. They'll have very minimal fat and essentially no carbs. So I consider that to be that type A type protein. It's super fantastic. I know right now it's really popular and trendy, the Fairlife shakes at Costco. Pretty dense in just protein, 150 calories, getting about 30 grams of protein. And it's just so good on the go because you can knock out that 30 grams. So when you can find different things that you like, that you can inject and that work well for you. I know it's trendy right now to cook up lean ground beef with some rice and just have the simplest, easiest meal. That works too. What are some of your favorites, Jason?
Some of my favorites, I would say for sure Greek yogurt. We could tell we're brothers. We like very similar options. It's funny about the cottage cheese that he mentioned too, because the texture grosses me out too. The only time I've ever gagged by eating food was cottage cheese. Literally, it's funny. My roommate, he's like, "I've never seen you." Like back when I had a roommate, he's like, "I've never seen you gag eating a food." I took one spoon and gagged, but yeah. Anyways, Greek yogurt I really really love. Egg whites I really like too, and that's a big one. And I like them because they're convenient, right? Obviously, any meat I really like too, especially white meats, but protein shakes and stuff are great too. But a really cool thing that I use as my compass to determine if something's good protein or not is basically just multiplying the protein by the calories per gram. So if you look at egg whites, for example, there's 10 grams of protein in a 45 calorie serving. So if you look at the 10 grams of protein, you know that there's roughly 4 calories per gram of protein. Multiply, just look at the nutrition label like Josh said, multiply the protein by 4, and then you can see, oh, okay, out of this 45 calories, 40 come from protein. That's a really good lean option. And then you can also compare to protein bars and things like this, right? Which appear to be a really good option. And they're all right. They're pretty good. But if you look at a protein bar, it's say 200 calories, 20 grams protein. Well, if you do that math, you see, okay, 20 grams of protein times 4 calories per gram, that's 80 calories of the 200 coming from protein. So that's not even half of the protein bar coming from protein. Whereas something like the egg whites, well, that's 40 out of 45. That's what, 90% something, or yeah, just about 90%. That's really good, right? So lean on those options. Yeah, Greek yogurt, egg whites, any white meat, any white fish. You can get fun with it too and make protein pancakes and protein waffles. I like doing that. You can adjust things. You can, instead of making your typical scrambled eggs, use more egg whites. If you're making your protein pancakes, you can throw egg whites in there and increase the ratio of protein to calorie by doing stuff like that. So those are some of my go-tos for sure.
Yeah, so well said. And I think just reading labels and understanding that something isn't inherently good because it says protein. Some things say are protein bars, and I've had them in the past, and they've been 24 grams of fat, 9 protein, and like 400 calories. And like, it's a pretty bad source. Like, to me, I'd rather just eat a candy bar that's tastier and then have a scoop of protein powder, and I'd be better off macros wise, which is pretty funny. So that's where analyzing and looking, and don't just see things as good or bad. Read them. There's better protein bars than others. There's some that will taste better. And a general rule of thumb, things will tend to taste better the more sugar and fat you add to it and carbs. So sometimes like certain protein powders, like BSN's whey was about 200 calories per scoop and like 24 grams of protein. Whereas I can have my diesel scoop, which is about 110 grams with 30 grams, or 110 calories with 30 protein. So it's like half the calories with more protein, but that BSN has a lot more in it. It's got some carbs. Perhaps you'll want carbs. So it's just all considering what will support your goal. And it's not to say you can't have these fattier options, but the lean options will fill you up so much, as we know from satiety. The more you can make a habit of having them, the better. The fun swaps, as Jason had said, protein pancakes. We do mini pizzas in my house with that lactose-free cheese. I'll load it up. I'll end up with like 50 grams of protein. I'll make 4 little tortilla pizzas, which are like about 800 calories total. That's like a fun little hack. So case in point, wrapping it up, you got to make it fit within your schedule. Start early with that protein in the day. Find these sources, find sources you like, find sources that are convenient for you, have backups, have lots of healthy protein snacks in the house. It'll make it easier to hit your goal. But the easiest way to hit it is by doing it early. And I think a fun sub question I wanted to get here, and this goes back to Jason's outfit analogy, is what's more important at the end of the day? If it comes down to me hitting my calories, or if it comes down to me hitting my protein and going over my calories, and I'm looking to cut.
Such a good question. Yeah, it's a really good one. So the joke I'll throw in here is the answer to every fitness question is it depends, and I think that's the beauty of what we do here with coaching is we specifically focus on the individual, because my answer for this question would differ based on the person I'm speaking to. The general answer I would give is that you want to avoid extremes. You never want to be, oh, I hit my calories, but I had 20 grams of protein, because the thing is they're both very important, right? And you want to acknowledge that fact. I think if you were to look at both of them in the purposes that they serve, the calories themselves are going to be largely dependent on changing your body fat mass. If you're in that surplus, you're storing those excess calories. If you're in that deficit, you're taking from the excess, which you've already got stored. Fat loss, fat gain, the calories are important for that. They're important for your energy and all kinds of other things. And the protein is very important for muscle gain, muscle preservation, keeping you full, like Josh mentioned. So they're both very important. And my answer would be try to keep them both as close to the goal as possible and avoid extremes, even if you might have to go over calories a little. If you're crazy low in protein, maybe throw a shake in there or something like that to balance those numbers out a little bit. And all in all, planning ahead is the best thing you can do, right? This question is dependent on the fact that, hey, maybe I didn't plan very well to hit those numbers in the first place. And that is also very important too.
Yeah, so I get asked this a lot as well as a coach, and I always say you really shouldn't be in this position. Of course, there's situations where you will end up in this position, but like Jason said, with planning, this can absolutely be avoided. And as I mentioned, I find it really starts in the morning. If you have like a massive breakfast, it's about a third of your total calories with next to no protein. It's so hard to pull out of that deficit. And I really recommend like avoiding just like having like 5 scoops of protein a day. It's going to get old. You're going to burn yourself out and it's not going to put you in a good position. But like Jason said, it really does depend, because if you were a little bit below and we were doing like a lean bulk and we were gaining like half a pound a week, if you were to go a little bit over to meet that protein requirement, it wouldn't be the end of the world per se. But I try to avoid that. And in general, in terms of a hierarchy, we mentioned this before, calories are first because that's our energy marker, that's input output. A really close second, they're pretty much neck and neck, is protein. Because Jason said protein is a super nutrient. It does so much for you. It sates you, causes you to be more full, gives you that energy, muscle preservation, muscle gain, as Jason said. And that's where oftentimes individuals won't even change their diet. They'll just actually eat more protein and they'll see big compositional change because it really is a powerful nutrient. It's great seeing science and nutrition recommendations actually start to acknowledge this and the increase of recommendation of protein. It's amazing seeing people achieve these benefits, and you can absolutely do it with balance. And it doesn't need to be anything extreme. As I mentioned, and in this question, working up to a gram per body weight is a pretty safe metric. If that's too much for you, even 0.8 of a gram per body weight is a great place to be. You're definitely going to see a lot of the benefits there, and you can always go a little bit further, but you don't really need to go much past that. So it's absolutely doable. It gets a little harder when you're a deficit. It will require some more creative planning, and especially within this question, you might need a little bit more planning. But once again, with some preparation, using these tips and just acknowledging time to time, you'll have to get creative and find solutions. There's always ways to make this work. And I love Jason's point about extremes, because if you're at like 20 grams of protein, you're at your calories, like that is something that you can absolutely avoid. And we're having multiple meals and snacks in a day, like you'll have opportunities to address it. And that's how you can have a healthy relationship with food. I do like going out for a big breakfast sometimes. I'll get like some turkey bacon, I'll have a bunch of pancakes. It'll be like 1,200 calories of my 3,000 calories, having next to no protein. But you know for sure that lunch is going to be dense with protein. My dinner is going to be dense with protein. My snack's going to be there. And I'm going to find a way to get it done or be as close as I physically can. And once again, this is how you can still have that balance, do things you enjoy. But most days, I enjoy having my protein meal because it makes me feel better. It sates me. It's good for my skin. It's just, there's so many benefits there. And I think when you look at food as both a metric of something to help you grow and be healthier, to improve your aesthetics, as well as improve how you feel. Because when you eat good food, you feel better, you feel more energized. When you eat bad food, you feel more lethargic, your skin feels worse. So there's more of a cost to it. And I just think going for balance in general, using that 80-20 rule, following all of our best practices and following this tip does go a long way.